let's talk about the other things that's really important. We just had a shooting in Idaho. You guys have taken it to the next step because you care about people. So your training that you do with civilians for CCW, all right? We shared a little bit at breakfast. Share that story a little bit, and then let's get into what you're doing for that and AU Fire with Tim Pierce and those group. And I think this is just absolutely terrific because it just doesn't go to the security realm that needs it so bad.
Yeah,
we're now talking about the people that need security because they're going to have to start getting involved themselves, the civilian, be your own security because we're still short bodies. So until we figure this out, I think you better come to class. And if you're going to come to class, let's teach you to keep you safe, right? So you can have the confidence to keep you out of court, right? Right? Because law enforcement is scared shitless to make that because they don't know if they're going to get sued, right? So you're better off to be the police. You know what's so funny? When I left the department and I became a civilian and I went on to HUD projects, right? And I had all this knowledge as a cop, but I could act like a civilian. You wouldn't believe all the crooks that I was able to capture that had guns and knives in their pocket and dope in their pocket. And I just played ignorant and I called the police because I knew they wanted a frank arrest. I'm not going to let them with a security guard. Look what I found. I just played ignorant. I just stopped him, sir, and I wasn't sure. And, come here. Oh, he's got a gun. Oh, he's got a knife. Wow, you're amazing, right? Right? You get where I'm going?
Yeah.
It's knowing.
100%.
And I go, I have more rights as a civilian.
Yeah.
And that's versus the poor peace officer trying to do his job.
I'd say you have more rules as a police officer in a lot of ways. And it's interesting because I think we're starting to see some trends, right? With incidents where you have lawful civilian folks who are lawfully carrying a firearm. You know, they went through the permitting process. They went through that whole thing. But now you're starting to see these high-profile incidents like what happened here in Cerritos, what happened in Idaho recently. Obviously, you know, that was a terrible tragedy that happened, you know, in Idaho. You know, some people lost their lives. But what you're starting to see more and more, or it appears more and more, is that you're starting to see, you know, people who are lawfully carrying a firearm as a civilian are now stepping into the breach. And doing so at risk to themselves because, you know, legally they're not required to intervene in anything. They're a civilian, right? They're not required by law, but there's also an aspect that we talk about in training, which is ethically and morally. You know, and if you have the ability to do something, should you act? And that's always the biggest question when we're doing training is, should we? And I said, that's only a decision that you can make. Every student that comes through the class it's a decision point, but it's based on information, data, right? What's happening in front of me? What knowledge, skills, and abilities do I have? Am I actually prepared for this? Have I ever trained for this? And in the specific case of the Idaho situation is there's a lot of information coming out now that this person routinely trains, and he's been talking about, you know, hey, you know, I'm preparing for the one day, not every day, basically. And he says it much more eloquently, but the reality is these type of things I think are going to start happening with a little bit more frequency, unfortunately, where you're going to have somebody who is just your average civilian who's just in the right place, right time, and they're going to step in between the bad thing and the folks that don't have the ability or choose that posture of, well, I'm never going to carry a firearm, which is fine. That is completely your right, but there's also completely your right of folks who want to pursue their constitutional right to carry a firearm, right? So I think we're starting to see that more and more, but we're also instilling mindset because that took some heavy mindset for that gentleman jump out of his car and just do his thing. And even law enforcement credited him and that off-duty officer that got injured with minimizing. And, you know, it's funny because when you go on social media, you know, we talked about this earlier, there's always haters in the comments. There's always people who are going to say, well, you know, he didn't actually stop the shooter. I would argue otherwise. Every one of these bad guys, they go into it with this mental image of how it's going to go down and how they're going to do things. What they never account for is what we always say is the good person with the gun, right? And he may not have impacted, you know, as far as, you know, he didn't stop like when we consider stop, he didn't actually put rounds on target, or at least there's a lot more investigation. So maybe I'm misspeaking here.
So far that we know. Yeah.
So we don't know if any of his rounds landed, but here's what it did. It put the shooter on the defensive, and it made him realize, this wasn't going to be this is now not as easy as I had thought it was going to be. And that paused him long enough to save lives. Those two folks absolutely mitigated any more loss of life.
And how was that done, Dave? I mean, people being able to get out of the restaurant quicker?
Yeah, people were, he delayed the shooter from focusing on the act of killing innocent people who were unarmed, and now focused, the CCW holder at least made him focus on, okay, now I'm taking rounds inbound, and now I have to go seek cover, or I need to get out of the line of fire. Otherwise, my plan his plan was derailed right there. By those two folks getting involved, that derailed the shooter's plans. And I think, unfortunately, and we talk about this all the time, is during an active shooter, police are 5 minutes out, easy. Yeah, right? Depending on where you are. Yeah. And that's not a slam on law enforcement. That's just the nature of how things are set up. So now you have this window, right? And, there's other windows. The first 30 seconds is when you're going to start losing a lot of people. But if you have somebody who's there to disrupt that process, you save lives, regardless of whether you actually make contact with the shooter or not. If you can delay or obstruct the shooter from carrying out their mission, you've been successful.
Yeah, and I think it was so great that happened, because I get asked all the time, like school shootings, people always want to be mad at the cop. They're upset that the cop didn't get something done. I try to explain to them, you guys don't understand the protocol a police officer has to take when he goes to a school shooting, okay? The things he has to do as far as containment and be an observation to put that information out. But at the same time, it's the personality of that officer, right? What his policies are, right? Think, hey, I'm going to go into a scene. Shooters don't have that. They're there to do one thing and just take people out as many as they can, as quick, and it has to be a very, very quick decision, right? Versus what we just talked about. And I want you to take it from there, Scott.
Yeah. It's interesting, I think, when we talk with our CCW students, I tell them that you're now in the sheepdog family because you've taken the steps to appropriately learn how to defend yourself. This is one aspect of that, right? The firearms are a tool. They're not the end-all, be-all thing. The biggest tool that we encourage them to use in the class that Dave and Joel have designed is to use that brain to make decisions. And we put them through the Milo. By the way, no other CCW training is doing this, making them make decisions under stress. And we do the best we can with the Milo that we have and the scenarios that we have, designing them and then letting them do it, and then talking about the outcome of the scenario, talking about why did you do what you did, not to accuse them of, you make bad decisions, but we teach them that this is the place to make the wrong decision. We don't teach them to die. Nobody dies in training, but we teach them that if you would do something different next time, this is now your experience level. Mm-hmm. Yep. And because you have this experience, and I tell them, you can't unsee what you're going to see today. You can't unknow it. Once you have been inculcated into this world, doesn't matter where you go. Because one thing I don't want people to think is that the firearm is the tool that will solve all my problems. Because if that's the case, then everything is a shoot, don't shoot. Yeah. And when you pull out guns and you're in civilian attire, you look like the mass shooter, right? in this Idaho situation, from what we understand in the early reports, the off-duty law enforcement officer was reluctant to draw his weapon because he didn't want to be mistaken for the shooter. He ended up getting shot. Fortunately, he survived. And the bad guy's dead. I'm not going to criticize what he was doing because I've been there too. I am absolutely I can see why you would be reticent to whip out your gun and go to work, because when law enforcement gets there, guess who's getting shot?
Yep.
People with guns who they don't recognize.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when we're teaching our CCW folks, we tell them that, and it was interesting to see that this is happening in real life, and it's being captured with the cameras on, that everybody carries in their pockets.
Right.
The first information that came out about this Twin Falls shooting was all cell phone video. I saw it all over X, and I'm trying to understand, okay, what was happening? Who's the shooter? I got this guy with a cool hat and a really long gun that kind of looks like a suppressed weapon. That's a weird thing to see during a civilian civilian involved shooting. So for me, it takes me back to when we're teaching folks about CCW. It's more about mindset. Sir, you got to know how to use that tool. If you don't know how many nails to put in your nail gun, or how far the nail is going to protrude into the board, you probably shouldn't be putting it just anywhere,
Yeah.
right? You should know how to use that tool. It's the same thing with a firearm, but you can go and travel all around the world now, but you can't take your gun with you everywhere you go. So how do we empower people with knowledge and experience? Well, we use Milo, because what we tell them is, okay, you're in this, after they've gone through a scenario. All right, let's say you're in this scenario and you're in France and you have your family with you. What would you do? Oh, yeah, wow, I didn't think about that. I guess I'd probably turn around and run away. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's ever said and empowered people with the knowledge that it's okay to run away and save yourself when you're outgunned. Because some of the scenarios we have, in fact, is very similar to this shooting at a restaurant franchise, where you have somebody with a long weapon, and I don't know what kind of long weapon he had. I'm assuming it was an AK type firearm. And most of our CCW carriers, minus the guy in Idaho, carry just a compact pistol, if not a pocket gun, revolver with 5 rounds. And so how comfortable are you engaging somebody who could shoot you 100 yards away with accuracy, yet you can't return fire? Are you going to be running into that situation? And I ask them, some of the scenarios, what kind of gun was that? Not that I'm looking for the make and the model and the round capacity and all that stuff. But I say, what kind of gun was that? Oh, that was a rifle. Okay, well, you what do you carry? Oh, I carry a 38 stem-nose revolver. Okay. He had a rifle. She had a rifle. You had a 38. If you weren't closer than 5 feet, what would you do? Oh, yeah, I would not engage that person because they could wipe me out.
Yeah.
Right? And I just want people to be aware of things, think about things, and see things, and hear things, and don't panic.
See, that's what I love about your training. And Dave, you just brought up a point. Us being police officers, former police officers, when you say 38, it was a backup gun. We know, hey, that's going to be a real close quarter, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, that 2-inch, oh my God, it throws a wonderful flame, but it's accurate. It's not accurate, okay? So people watching movies, civilians, don't know that. They think a gun's a gun, right? So the fact you guys were able to really, I thought that was genius the way you asked that question, because it really makes them think, right?
We have to.
Yeah, but they don't. Honestly, they don't know that. So on your Milo training, Dave, it's not just educational. Is it emotional? Are they getting an are they feeling it? Is your Milo training so realistic to where they actually? How are they responding in that training? I'm just curious.
So, we definitely get a variety of responses, but the one consistent response that comes out of that is, wow, that was much faster than I thought it would be. Because we're all the hero in our own story until, and again, no slam on gun owners, but I think a lot of people acquire a firearm. They say, hey, I'm going to get my CCW, I'm going to buy a really cool, SIG, and I'm going to put a red dot, and they talk about all the stuff. But then they never actually go train with it. And then they've never been pressed under pressure, right? We all know about the old 21-foot rule. It's not a rule, but we have that drill, and we run them through. And there are people sometimes struggle, they go to pull the, I'm going to carry appendix, I'm going to do all this stuff. And then what happens? It gets caught on their shirt, and then the guy runs them over. And it is a super humbling moment in that moment where they go, oh, I didn't realize. And then that really makes them focus on, and again, this is just a CCW class where this isn't even required by the state. We just added this as something that we feel is necessary, because if you're going to carry a gun, and everybody's universal response is, why are we not doing more of this? Well, you have the ability to do so. You just got to come back, right?
Yeah.
But something happened in the Idaho incident that I do want to talk about that you mentioned briefly is that off-duty law enforcement officer was injured. Okay, which is another topic we don't
talk about this.
We don't talk about. Well, we introduce.
In the course, we talk about it.
But and even in law enforcement, and you've had Tim Pierce on from AU Fire. We've incorporated AU Fire into some of our advanced training classes because even as law enforcement, we don't train injured, or we have an antiquated way. Like recently I saw a video, I think on Facebook, and it was some training organization. I can't remember which one. But what did they do? They wrapped they put a tennis ball in this dude's hand and they wrapped it. And I'm like, there is way better tech out there that you could leverage, like AU Fire, in order to simulate, and we've run people through these classes where they're getting hammered through AU Fire, and now they got to get a tourniquet on because they're by themselves because they got hurt. And the reality that we lay out to civilians is, look, you're not legally required to get involved, but if you do, just understand that there is a good possibility that you may be hit and injured, and that you may have to provide yourself self-care until authorities can get to you, or the ambulance or whoever. Now, luckily, in the instance of that Idaho officer, his wife and a friend of his wife's, they were both emergency room nurses, and they had tourniquets on him, and they were able to get him tourniquet up pretty quick, and made a decision to get him to the hospital on their own versus waiting for the ambulance because they still had an active scene. So the reality is that if you're hurt, so we ask every one of the students, do you carry a med kit? Do you carry chest seals? Do you carry a tourniquet? What do you carry? How many tourniquets? Could you get hit multiple places? These are things that these folks aren't even remotely thinking about, that we have probably, I'd say in the last 7 or 8 years, have really focused on in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Or maybe even the last decade, I would argue, that we focused on that method of, okay, if you're hurt, how do we get somebody out of here? How do we address, that's where TAC Med came from and all these different things. So, or SWAT medics and all this other stuff, realizing, hey, we could be injured out here. How are we handling this? And AU Fire performs brilliantly in terms of that psychological, okay, I've lost use of my arm. What do I do now? We train people to overcome that, because is the gunfight over after you got hit? Maybe not. Right?
I gotta interrupt you. I'm just curious. You just made me think of something. What is so great about what you guys are doing, obviously, is not just a background that you have in the training, because you're not going to some guy that took a small course and you're there to get your BSIS license, and then you're done for the day, right? And the only thing he's interested in is lunch and getting you out the door and cycling the numbers and collecting the fee, right? Yeah. And don't forget to send it to the state, and then so you can monitor their certificate. You guys have all this expertise. If I was coming to your class and I had people, what is so great about it is that you have your Milo, you have AU Fire with Tim, you have all this training, you have the medic, the tourniquet, and all that. If I came into your class, and I want to do this, I want to come to your class, and I want to even bring somebody, I'm going to bring Steve with the camera. We're going, Steve, to this. Yeah. And go through your class. But think of this. I want to know, when I come to your class, am I going to be an observer? Or am I going to be an active participant? Or am I going to be a shooter to take it out? I want to know. Okay, I watched a lot of movies. In my mind, I'm John Wayne. Okay, but at the end of the day, number one, I know I need to know what's the best practice when I have family, and when to get involved and when I should not be involved. Okay, like for an example, I've got my 2 babies and my wife, and you know what? This isn't the time. Just get them to safety.
Yeah,
real simple. Some people need to know that. Okay, Don't worry about what your wife's going to think of you. Honey, why didn't you protect those people? Okay? The reality is she needs to know that, hey, you're there for family. But I guess where I'm going is I think the stages would be really interesting to go in to take a class where I could really tell myself, you know what? I carried a gun, but I know now that I am not capable mentally, right, to get involved in the shooting. Because if I get hit, I rolled up like a little baby. Okay, they put it on level 1, and I couldn't put the tourniquet on. I'm not smart enough to figure out even that as easy it was. I was so stressed I couldn't even slide it through my hand. You see where I'm going? So I'm coming to this class to figure out what classification I am.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and with that, I know if I am level 1, I can come back to Dave and Scott and their training class, and I can move to a level 2 with the comfort, the passion, the caring, to be better trained to protect my family, to a level 3. And then to get to a point knowing at the end of the day, if I really want to participate, but when I leave this class, I'm going to really feel like I walked away with something.
So I've been fortunate enough. Dave's allowed me to teach this class by myself now, but I had the opportunity to watch him teach it several times, and Joel teach it several times. And what I love about their teaching style is it's very humble, right? Dave could get up there and talk about all the SWAT things and this and the K9 and that, but he doesn't do any of that, right? And I think we give the 30-second, I've come out of military and law enforcement, and I've carried concealed weapon for a long time, so I want to impart the good things to you. But he doesn't come off like he's the expert that's going to teach you because you're all effed up.
Yeah.
And this is a dorky term that the Gen X or Gen Z uses, but he really does create a safe space for them to go in there and be like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm hoping that you can get me going in the right direction. And sure, you can't do that. You can't make them a SWAT operator in one session.
Right.
You got to play a lot more Call of Duty before you can get to be a good SWAT operator.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, dude?
Yeah, that's...
Who knew?
Yep. Ask any of the Metro guys. So the space that they come to learn in, and sure, they come from all walks of life. And I called Dave after he let me teach this class to tell him how it went. But we had a principal, a high school principal in the class getting his CCW. And one of the scenarios that I ran him through intentionally was a school scenario where you had an active attack happening in a school. And I'm like, okay, I know you can't usually carry your gun in school, but today you had it, and you had that authority, and you're doing it, right? So we talk him through the scenario a little bit. He goes through the scenario, and there's kids running and screaming and things happening all around him, and so he was really amped up. He did great. He handled the situation. He made good decisions, and afterwards, I was like, okay, let's talk about it. And that's how I start. That's how you start. Let's talk about it. Tell me what you saw. Tell me what happened. Regurgitate this to me, because we know, being PTSD survivors, that we got them a little bit of PTSD right now. Right, we got them a little bit of the experience that are some of the horrors of our past lives, of things that we've seen. We gave them a little bit of that, but what we're doing, what we never got in our history, was we're going to decompress them too, immediately. Tell me what happened, and they start regurgitating that. And interestingly enough, this guy who was a principal at a high school said, "I didn't see those actor kids. I saw my kids." And I was like, wow. I was intentionally trying to drive him into a stressful point. And this was, by the way, not the first scenario I had run with him. We had run several out throughout the day, so I felt comfortable that he was ready to kind of take a step up and be in maybe a little bit more realistic to him situation. And that was interesting for me to hear, that in his mind's eye, he replaced the faces of all the characters that he was seeing, which are real, actors acting like they really would during an active shooter situation. Wow. And all he saw were his kids in his high school. Yeah. That's the power of shooting on a flat range at a target that's not not moving. It's not doing anything to you, and it looks like a silhouette, which is what it is. And we put them in the scenario in this simulator with a gun that functions as far as providing where their rounds are landing every time they pull the trigger, because we can go back, and we do this, and we look at, okay, and I literally will play parts of the scenario for them. What did you see here? How did you think about the situation as you're approaching? What kind of information did you have? And specifically, one of the things I always ask any of the people, whether there are we teach some law enforcement, we teach executive protection, and we teach, CCW students who don't have any of that experience. One thing I tell them during these active shooter situations, as people are running past them, screaming, because we encourage the student to talk to the screen, because there are things that we can do. Milo is a great system, and there are things that we as the instructors can do in the scenario to tweak the outcome a little bit. So if you're using good verbal commands, maybe I can de-escalate it. If you're not doing something that I want you to be doing, maybe I can change the outcome. So that's great for instruction because the scenario doesn't look the same student to student. But in these scenarios where we have people running past them, I ask them, why were people running? Because it was an active shooter? Okay, yeah, but where were they coming from? Oh, I don't know. They just come running down the hallway. Oh, okay. Did you ask them who was shooting or where the shooter was or what the shooter was armed with or if there were people that were hurt? Well, no, I didn't even think I could do that. Okay, but we got them thinking now. Use that brain.
That is so great.
Because if you put somebody under stress and you don't then give them the tools to understand what they could do differently, not what they did bad or good, because that's, I think, a lot of people that can be very intimidated. And by the way, those of us veterans and law enforcement veterans, we like to tell everybody all the cool things that we've done. But if you're instructing people that don't understand your world or only understand it from the movie perspective or the media perspective, they can be intimidated really quickly because they don't want to disappoint you and they don't want you to think that they're a wimpy civilian.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't think that anyways.
No, not at
I
all.
think everybody has a superpower that they bring to these situations that they don't even realize is a superpower. And Joel rightfully identifies The Gift of Fear, a book written by Gavin de Becker, which is a really good text on everybody is born with this ability to understand the risks as we go around the world, throughout our lives. So use that. And we emphasize that, and we de-emphasize the, I messed up, I got killed in that situation. No. Nobody gets killed in training. Nobody dies in training. And sometimes you'll see them, they'll give up. They got me. No, keep fighting. They'll tell them, remind them, keep fighting.
Stay in the fight.
Keep shooting, or keep doing what you're doing. We also give them the ability to move to cover, right? We have cover in the classroom because those are we don't want them to. What do we practice the most of as firearm owners? Standing still and going bang, 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 bang. Okay, I'm done. No.
Not to mention control your breathing.
Squeeze
the trigger slow, lay almost like an accident.
Well, that's why teaching with Joel is so beneficial because Joel lays a really good foundation and kind of gives them a lot of the foundational things: sight trigger, sight trigger pull, all sight picture, sight alignment. He really does a good job of that, but he also is very good with, hey, if you fail in here, that's the best thing. We don't want you to come in here and do things perfect. We want you to walk away with tools. And the reality is that, again, you get a lot of folks that get that really bitchin' gun and setup and all this other stuff, but they never train with it, and by the way, paper targets don't shoot back at you. They're not unpredictable. They don't yell at you. They don't try to assault you. So don't get me wrong, going to the range is very important.
Sure.
But decision making in regards to, hey, you're in a store, it's getting robbed. What do you do? Right? And these are everyday situations that these people are going to encounter. And that's another thing they walk away with. They're like, yeah, I go to the gas station, or I go to the bank, or I go here, or I go there. So these are all pretty realistic in terms of where I go.
Sure.
Right.
Vision Insights is the simplest, most powerful security guard management software. No long training, no complicated systems. Guards can start reporting in minutes. Train your teams with micro trainings, attaching video to individual checkpoints to walk them through sensitive procedures. Submit accurate reports every time with dynamic observations that automatically rewrite, categorize, and prioritize, removing human error. And grow your business with daily, monthly, and quarterly insights, the most advanced reports available today. Vision Insights, the simplest, most powerful way to report.
I was wondering, in your class, there's a lot of people that buy guns, right? And they had a bad experience or a fear, and then they buy it and then they lock it in their closet. And they didn't buy the right gun, first of all, right? What do you find in your class? What kind of people are you getting in your class? Are you getting the John Waynes that want to take a training? Are you getting the school teacher?
Those.
I mean,
there's a few, but
I think they're far less. We're getting a real good cross section of society. We're getting nurses, engineers. We're getting all different kinds of people that have their own reasons for wanting to carry. Now, some people say, "Hey, I just want to get my permit. I have no intention of carrying outside of my house, but I want the option just in case," which I think is great. But what's interesting is the one or two folks that actually have come in with a little bravado, I would say.
Yeah,
they get humbled.
They get humbled really fast in the beginning, because we run them through a drill and they're like, "Oh, I didn't." Again, I go back to my previous statement of, I didn't realize how fast this was going to go down. Okay, so now we can recalibrate, and now everybody's on the same page, and everybody sees where we're going to go. And the idea is we're just here to learn. And Joel says this too a lot, which I appreciate, is I'm not there, and Scott's not there, and Joel's not there. We're not here to war story you to death about how bitchin' we think we are. We're trying to share with you practical insights that are going to keep you alive in a real situation, because you're doing the one thing that I think cops sometimes, I don't want to say take for granted, but when we throw on that gun belt, it's just a tool, right? This is just our tool belt. Just like a construction worker puts on a tool belt, he's got his hammer, drill. We tend to look at it that way in some cases, where this is just our bat belt and this is what we're going to work with. Whereas as a civilian, if you haven't carried every day for the last 30 years, it's new. And you're constantly fumbling with it or moving it around because it's not comfortable and all this other stuff. Yeah. So I think there is a model where, eventually this also gives them some stress inoculation. And lets them understand, like, listen, it may sound cool on paper carrying a firearm, but it is a bit of a pain sometimes, number one. And number two, you may be put in a position. And also, by the way, there may be expectations from friends and family who don't carry that you're just going to jump in and be super person in every situation. And that's not the whole reason you carry a firearm.
Well, and I think the one consistent that we do see is they're thinking more about the firearm itself. Yeah. And maybe their only question is, do you have a light or a dot on your carry gun? Or do I carry an extra mag, and where do I put that mag? Because all the gun tubers are out there doing the appendix draw, and they're all, by the way, really skinny. And I'm like, nah, I can't pull that off. But so what we start talking to them about, do you have firearms insurance? The insurance that will cover you if you use force. And it's not just firearms or the use of force with a firearm. It could be the use of force anything. If you have a knife, if you're striking somebody. Sure. And we start talking about that. We start talking about tourniquets. We start talking about illumination devices, edge
options.
Weapons.
What about liability? You guys talk about liability?
So that's where we
really
talk
if you
about
do this.
We talk about the CCW insurance, but we also talk about you're accountable for every round that leaves your firearm, which means if you miss and there's a building back there and you poke a hole in the window and kill Linda in HR, you're going to be held accountable for that. So we focus on decision making, but we also let them know, hey, if you miss, and it hits somebody else, you could be liable, right? Everything you're doing is going to be liable. And by the way, if you poke holes in the robbery suspect at the counter of a store, just understand that the family is going to come after you, because the 6 o'clock news is going to show all the baby pictures of what an upstanding person that criminal is. Yep. And now you're going to be held liable. So protect your livelihood. Not only protect yourself, but protect your livelihood. But we also the first things we lay into them about usually, and not in any particular order, is situational awareness. Pay attention to your surroundings. Get your face out of your phone and pay attention to what's going on around you. That's going to save your life more than anything else, because then you can engage in avoidance. You can just completely avoid the situation. Can you tactically or strategically disengage from that situation? Can you de-escalate? What are some things you can do? And if we give them a framework: intent, opportunity, capability, especially as it relates to deadly force. We've all had very similar trainings in law enforcement, but I usually tell them, those are the three preconditions that you can leverage in terms of, is this a good time for me to use my firearm or not? Because most people don't really have a good frame of reference. Yeah. So we try to give them, here's a small framework that you can use. Are you looking at what capability do they have? Do they have a knife, a gun, a club, whatever? Yeah. Opportunity, what's their proximity to you? Yeah. And then the biggest one is intent. If this dude or dudette is charging at you with a knife, that is clear intent. And they have opportunity and capability. You've satisfied those three preconditions, and likely deadly force is going to be fine. But you have to be able to not only, and we force them to articulate, all right, you just shot somebody, now what?
What are you doing?
Oh, I call 911. Cool. What do you say? We start pressing them.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Further and further and further until they understand that this is a whole chain of events. You just shot somebody. The police are coming. You just called 911. What do you say? What shouldn't you say? More importantly, what do you say? What do you say when law enforcement gets there? Everything's on body cam now. So everything that you're going to say is going to be used against you, potentially in court. So are you taking the time to go, hey, officer, I'm going to completely comply with you, but I do want to talk to my attorney, right? There's nothing wrong with saying that, right? And we let them know you're going to be taken into custody. You're going to be brought back to the station. You're going to have all these things happen to you, but we're letting them know so when it happens, it won't be the first time that this happens to them, and they'll be a little bit better prepared for when it does.
Talking about full circle.
Yeah.
End of day, you go through all this. How long is your class?
Well, the CCW class that we do that's a 16-hour class. And, again, Joel does all the Milo decision-making piece isn't required by the state, but we do it as an addition to the class. So Joel does all the licensing and all the basics and all the requirements for the class to include the range. We just bring them in to do the decision-making piece throughout the class. Now, the class where we use AU Fire, different. That's a 4-hour class, and that's after pretty much somebody has a CCW. I mean, you don't have to have a CCW for it, but that's usually who it's for. And then we run them through all kinds of things. All right, you got knocked on your back. How you get your gun out, especially if you carry it back here. Okay. Yeah. Now you got pushed forward, and now you're on your belly. How do you appendix draw? How do you get around?
I like to shoot with your non-dominant hand. Because we can see where the rounds are going, and we'll replay it for them. Do you think he hit the target every time? Oh yeah, definitely did. And we'll show it. And it's like they're shooting all over the
place. We'll put a small folding table. We'll put 4 chairs around. Everybody's sitting in a restaurant eating, and you're the only one armed. And now bad guy comes in. How are you clearing to get around the people that are sitting at the table? Because now you're in a booth. How do you get out? How do you do that?
Oh, that's incredible.
So we're teaching them different things that they may experience all the time.
The mindset.
And then again, the Tim and AU Fire, have brought a completely new dimension. Tim, they're doing wonderful things with the military and law enforcement and all those other things, but nobody's using this in the CCW environment. And I'm putting that out there. Nobody's doing that except for us. At least not that I'm aware of, because Tim would have let us know that's the case. But the reality is that now it's you're injured, And for instance, like when we're, even though the current AU Fire locks up your arm, right? Yeah. So one of our last classes, Student got hit, he automatically started to pull his tourniquet out, and I go, you got hit in the leg and the arm. Figure it out.
How many
Right?
tourniquets do you
Decision making. How many tourniquets do you have? How long? Right? So it's really putting them under as much stress, pressure, adversity as possible in the classroom. So if they ever get into a real situation, ain't going to be their first rodeo for the most part, and they're going to be able to think a little bit more clear in terms of, okay, I have to end the fight first. Now I have to address myself. So how quickly can I address those things? Because now everybody's starting to question their setup.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I keep stuff? Where do I keep
we
my
talked
tourniquet?
about
Is it
all the
is it in a bag in my trunk buried under the spare tire, or is it someplace where I can actually access it? Right. So we really press people and talk people through. And a lot of people say, well, I don't know where to carry it. And I said, well, we give them options, and that's really what it's about. You have to carry where it's comfortable for you, because your setup may be very different from mine, because your setup doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So that's why we tell people you got to at least think these things through in terms of what do you have, where do you carry it, how do you carry it, and then also, hope isn't a plan. Right? Hope's not a plan. So don't hope you're never going to be involved in an incident. Prepare. Like we had somebody, and I think you had a person in your class, because I always ask people, how many spare mags do you carry? And I had someone who was adamant, well, I only carry the one in the gun. I said, why don't you carry a spare mag? Well, when would I ever need more than 10 rounds? Number one. And then I go, well, what if your magazine fails and all the bullets fly out through the floor plate? How many times has that happened? We've seen that hundreds of times. And they're like, well, I have a good gun. Or I said, what if your gun jams? Well, I have a really good gun. I said, malfunctions happen, and regardless of the type of gun that you have. Yeah, they may happen far less, but the likelihood, if you're ever put into a pressure situation, you may jerk the trigger, you may do something that may induce a malfunction.
Clothing.
And do you practice clearing drills? What do you do, right? So we put them under all this pressure. But it was like, and then the person who told me, well, when would I ever need more than 10 rounds? I said, do you absolutely know how long that gunfight's going to last? Nobody does. You'd have zero idea of how long a gunfight's going to last. It could be one round, could be 15. You have zero idea.
That's right.
The idea isn't how many rounds you carry. It says, are you prepared for that possibility of a malfunction or something else?
I think
that's
a lot
what
of
it's
people,
about. It's
I think
preparedness.
a lot of people don't even realize when law enforcement people get in shootings, they're asked immediately by homicide, how many rounds did you shoot? And they go,
100%.
We
not
asked
sure.
that question to the
I'm
civilians.
not sure, right?
Yeah.
And you could be empty,
Yeah.
Mag dump.
right?
100%.
And then you think you're empty and you're not. You may have shot two and you dropped a magazine, right?
Yeah.
Right? And everything goes everywhere. So, like you said, it's incredible. What do you find out? People go through the class. In closing, it'd be really interesting, and I'm sure you guys probably do this. You say, what's your purpose for being here today? What was the reason for coming here today? And then at the end of the class, be able to take what they started with here to what they found out about themselves, and has it changed your thought process today and where you want to be in this class, is why you want to advance.
Sure.
Ask yourself, the things we just kind of discussed.
So a couple. The two main questions we ask is, one of the first questions we ask is, what's one takeaway you're going to walk away with today? What is one thing that impacted you in a way that made you think differently about carrying a firearm, right? Which is important in understanding, like, okay, what that lets us know, okay, we made an impact as far as, but I think the bigger question that we always ask, regardless of what can we do better?
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. What can we do better? How do we improve this program? It's always great to hear the nice comments and all that other stuff. That's fine. Give us the things that make the class better for other students, right?
Yeah.
You can always come back here. We always let them know. We give them information about, here's the other classes we offer. Here's more advanced stuff we can do. We can do rifle. We can do shotgun. We can do all the different things with the system. But the reality is what what makes it better. So asking them what's one skill they're gonna walk away with today. Well, somebody says, well, hey, I know I need to work on my drawing, and that's something that's important. The quicker you get your gun out, the better, right? And then what can we do better? And a lot of times people are like, this class was fire. What do you mean better? Like, no, we want to make it better. And there's always something we can do to make it better,
Sure, right.
regardless of what that is.
You usually say make it longer.
We've actually had people say make it longer.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's good feedback.
Great feedback.
Well, and it's funny because like when you have cops saying, oh, this needs to be longer, that's unheard of in law enforcement. No cop ever wants a longer class, especially if it's death by PowerPoint, right?
Yeah, especially when they say longer. Okay, you're feeding my ego. I appreciate it. Okay, but at the end of the day, when you say longer, why? Because you felt like you needed more of this, you needed more of that. What did it be specific? What did you feel like? Is there anything here? In other words, I would be saying, and I know you guys do this, but I'm just saying, okay, when you came in, you were stressed. Did we reduce the stress? Or what created stress that you weren't familiar with?
Yeah.
What part of that training opened you up, got your breathing going, right? Outside of putting a heart monitor on you or whatever. But that would be really interesting, right? And then the dynamic, whether it's a husband, wife, or son, or whatever team that comes in, their perspective. And then at the end of the day, as a mother that came in here, how do you feel about it now? What was your thought process in the very beginning? Because how many calls you've been to and they go, would you, well, somebody's coming to your house, would you, I couldn't shoot anybody. Yeah. I said, yeah, but I just touched your 5-year-old daughter now. Oh, I'd kill him. And you go, well, what's the difference between your 5-year-old daughter and you? Right?
We had a lady recently, I think within the last couple months, I think she was at the class that you and I were both at. She actually said at the end of class, she goes, I feel much more confident handling my firearm now than I had previously coming here. She goes, this gave me a lot more confidence in understanding mechanics, of, I can move around. I can do different things. I can get off the X and go to cover. I can, she just felt a lot more confident, like, okay, if I actually have to use my firearm, I feel like I feel better prepared. And that's really what it is. It's the preparedness piece.
And myself, I would encourage my wife, women in general. Yeah. It's very important because you know what? They're usually a lot more calmer, smarter, and better shots. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So for all people.
100%.
Right? And everybody think, no, honey, I'll take this. I think all the way down the line. I think it's really cool. The Milo, explain to people the Milo. What does that screen looks like? Because I think it's a big deal. It's exciting. People don't like training, right? So typically, what's the Milo look like?
So Milo, they're a company based out of Michigan. Fantastic company. They're one of our system partners for sure. The acronym stands for Multiple Interactive Learning Objectives, and really, it's branching scenarios. You have a laptop. This laptop has 1,000 different scenarios on it. Yeah, we have a lot. We have anything you could think of.
So it sure changed today in the range at at Laser Village, right?
Fast machine,
But it replicates a lot of the things. And I always tell people up front that this is purpose-built for law enforcement, right? Because it's use of force-based, that kind of stuff. So a lot of the scenarios would be something that we might respond to as patrol officers. However, a lot of them, like for instance, there are scenarios that I use the same for police officers, that I use the same for executive protection, that I use for concealed carry, because it's how you position context of the scenario, right? So, but during those scenarios, depending on how long they are, they have branching options. So if you're, sometimes we put people in it cold and just say, make decisions. Do what you would do in a real situation. Wow. And then we walk it back. And then the most important part of any of these scenarios is the debrief. The scenario itself could be 30 seconds. We probably spend 15 minutes debriefing it. Why? Because we want you to fully understand all the things you may not have picked up in the scenario, or things that you may have gotten tunnel vision. So really talk through that. But it's a big movie screen.
10 foot by 10 foot.
And probably. It's life-size for the most degree. And you're interacting. And if you talk to the screen, I can pick how the character on the screen responds.
Really?
Yes.
That's terrific. I love that.
So if you go, hey man, what's your name? I can select an option that says, oh, my name's Bill, right? It has that, and Joel says this perfectly. He said that tool is only as good as the operator. Because you could put some noob who knows nothing about law enforcement, nothing about security, nothing about how to operate, and they may not facilitate the scenarios the same way. But because I know what I know as far as my experience, my skills, when people are up there going through the scenarios, I know what is a good point to make this thing go southbound. Yeah. Or, hey, the way you're talking to somebody. So like we were talking about security guard training earlier, a lot of these guards will walk up to a homeless guy and just be like, hey, dude, get out of here. Yeah. Well, when that happens, I immediately escalate the situation because I want to show them that that's probably the wrong way. But if they handle it and they're calm and they handle things the way we think they should, then I de-escalate. We reinforce.
We talk a lot about de-escalation.
Yeah, we reinforce good behavior, right?
You know what? What's so cool about this, if you think about this, we're changing, not only are you teaching and training, keeping people safe, but you're changing people on Instagram that taken this course, their perspective on law enforcement itself. They get to see, you're going to see a lot of reduced comments about the negative comments because they've gone through this course and they get to see what it's like on the other side. I mean, that's a big deal.
That was, I think, a comment from one of our students was like, can you get all the media to come to this and watch and go through the scenario
I've
themselves?
been part of those where you bring in the media and you're like, all right, here's, and we actually had an organization who wants to bring us in to have us do basically a full day demo for all their execs, their risk managers, their human resources folks, because they do a lot of EP work. So they want their stakeholders who are going to be deciding things from a risk perspective, like, they're getting sued because maybe one of the EP agents did something. They're going to realize the job's not as easy as they may think, right? So we're going to do some demos for some execs and make sure that they understand that, by the way, you're going to help me with that, because I think it's important that if you're the person who owns an organization and you're sending people out to go do the hard thing, you should understand firsthand what that hard thing looks like. So when something goes bad or sideways, you can go, well, I could kind of see that, right?
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
To Dave's point about we do have organizations that have armed security come through the course that's specifically designed for them, and we have a lot of similar conversations, but we had the conversation of, what do you guys do about liability and insurance? And they're like, well, the company will cover us. Are you sure the company that makes XYZ product or XYZ service is ready to support a security guard shooting? And then they go, oh, wow, I didn't think about that.
Nope, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. And it's not so much the security folks, because most of them, the ones that we're talking about here, are former military and law enforcement, and they understand it, and they know what the risks are. They're generally good judges of these situations. They make good decisions. The thing that they're not thinking about is how you operationalize and scale that program so that it reduces liability.
Yeah.
The thing that I don't understand why security professionals aren't talking about reducing the organization's liability more and more, but we talk about, I keep your people safe. Oh, okay, by doing what? Well, I got a guard at the entrance, or I got cameras. Okay, but quantify that for me. Well, it reduces we have lights on in the parking lot because it reduces the liability that somebody's car is going to get broken into or somebody's going to get hurt in the parking lot. Oh, okay, well, let's put lights in the parking lot. Yeah. Right? Quantify it to a business example and make it worth the business's attention. But to Dave's point, the reason why the executives are like, maybe we should see what they see is through their own lens. That is hugely important, because what we always talk about, the things that get companies not to be profitable anymore is those lawsuits, whether they had a faulty product and somebody got killed, or they had a faulty service and somebody got hurt, right? Those are the things, by the way, that splash headlines and that everybody wants to read about. this or that got somebody hurt or worse. And these organizations, I think, are starting to realize that, everything that we do matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Well, law enforcement back in the day, it still went on for a long time, They wait till there's a major lawsuit, and it could have been preventative, as we know. That's old school talking, I know, but it just blows my mind. Yeah, I think all the way across the board, it's just what you guys are doing is incredible teaching, man. Even law enforcement personnel, nothing wrong to go back yourself and stay involved. No, just go to the range. Come on, I remember that. Hey, I got in trouble with IA one time because it was so busy. My buddy was working the range, right? He said, I'll fix your card. I waited the last minute, but in my mind I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm pretty piss poor. Because you're working a fast station, you go, hey, man, I deal with this shit all the time, going to the desert and shooting. But it just, all the way around it, I think it's just great. I'd just love to see the people, not law enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a whole eagle you got to fight through, right, with them, right? That's a whole different caliber of people coming to that training. That's going to be a forced training typically. But I think on the other side for security people, and because people have to start being their own security.
Yeah.
And the liability you teach and all that.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Well, and we don't come from a judgment standpoint either. We're like, we're here to make sure that you start acting like we are.
Yeah.
They're going to find what's necessary for them and their protection strategy for them and their family out of that training.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be what I would do or what I would carry.
Yeah.
Because it's not about me or us. It's about the student and what they're trying to get.
Yeah.
Husband and wife team would be really cool.
We've
Just for the
actually
family.
seen,
that would be cool.
We've seen a lot more women coming through the class, which I think is fantastic. And then we have seen a lot of couples coming in, which then we start talking to them very loosely about, are both of you going to carry? And sometimes they'll say yes. Okay, well, then it's probably worth you coming back and we talk about team tactics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just both carry. My thing would be, honey, if I go and I have to leave, I want you to take the kids, go in the corner of the room, and just protect yourself.
Yeah.
I want you to know how to protect yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Worst case. I'm out in the garage. It doesn't mean I'm going to go leave my family. Obviously, I'm going to go in the corner and keep things safe and call the police and do all the right thing. I'm not going to go out in the middle. That's movies.
Yeah.
But if I happen to be in the garage, I got attacked, and then the guy's coming in the house after the fact. I want you to, there's some protocols, things that we can say. There's so much you guys are doing on that. And then with Tim's product, Tim Pierce's AU Fire.
Takes it to another level.
Oh.
Without a doubt.
I definitely have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you have a standing invitation.
I definitely want to film it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So where do you get the coin? Is it level 4 you have to go to?
Is it level 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to go.
Okay,
to
you
the
got to go level 4 then.
corner.
Chris.
Do I come in my camis and hat and all that stuff?
Please don't.
Fake tattoos?
Come like you're dressed.
You said face
Sleeves.
or fake?
Sleeves. Get it. Face tattoo.
Face. I like the face tattoos.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool. So you got a lot going on. You're teaching,
I'd say
you're
so.
training, and then you have this. Where do you see? Well, you got another product now. Well, you don't have another product. I'm sorry. The with Tim's product and what you were doing before, that's just that's a perfect match.
Yeah, 100%. It was a no-brainer, and those guys are great partners. And they're doing such amazing things, and that product is only going to evolve into other things.
Oh, for sure. How big, by the way? How big is your class? What's the perfect size?
Usually we prefer at most 8 people.
Okay.
We keep classes small on purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I know some folks are going to be like, "Oh, we want 25 people."
Yeah,
No, you want people to get as many reps as possible through the simulator and the AU Fire and all that other stuff. So we keep it to 8. If we have 4 people, that's a successful class. If I have 1, that's still a successful class because now we can dig into a lot of things. I don't also, we have some structured curriculum, but I also ask them, what do you want to work on? You're here. Let's figure it out. Well, I've never drawn my gun while sitting at the table.
Yep.
Okay, let's do it. Let's figure it out, right? I've heard this thing about, slicing the pie or something like that. Let's practice, right? Like there's so many different things that we can teach people that are going to be beneficial for them. And again, it doesn't, like Scott said, it doesn't make you an automatic operator, but it allows you to do things a little bit more safely to keep yourself alive.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, and class size does matter because
Yeah.
you'll have. We want students to watch each other go through this, not to be critical.
Yep.
But what we find is that, and I imagine you feel the same way, when we're doing our debriefs after the action, sometimes you'll have students be like, "Oh, I saw it this way," and they're able to throw in. And so now the person who's gone through the situation's hearing from what a fellow student.
Yeah.
Oh, there is different perspective. It's not just this person who's got military and law enforcement experience.
Yeah, it's so cool. In that class, I would just, after you guys are all done, I'd love to go, all right, everybody, go like this.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
Yeah.
How are we feeling today?
Yeah.
Right? Anybody got it? Right? Anybody need a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
No, we're good. Right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah. 100%.
Just the beginning.
This is just the starting point.
I think it's
More to come.
Well, it's a good thing, right? What
Yeah.
you're doing is help, right? It's just all about it's just really, really cool. And in what a perfect time the way this world going. Think about this. Who ever thought in Idaho?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, we say that about every situation.
Yeah, that's true. That's very sad. huh?
Every time a big incident occurs, what do we say? I never thought it would happen here. They said it about Columbine. They said it about Virginia Tech. They said it about all these different organizations, and it's like, lightning can strike anywhere.
Yeah. The way I'd put it, you guys come take the class, come develop some kind of peace of mind. Otherwise, you'll be eating DoorDash your entire life.
That's right.
100%.
You'll never leave.
You're going to be locked down. You're never going to
Without a
leave.
doubt.
And that's not a way to live.
No.
And so that's why I talk a lot, and this might be cheesy, but I talk about empowerment. As Californians, you all know that there earthquakes happen in this state.
Yeah.
So we are not afraid of that as much. We're prepared for it. We're not prepping. Just because you have a water and food in your car and in your house does not make you a prepper,
Yeah.
right? You're prepared for the eventuality of extra batteries for a radio and a flashlight and all these things, right? We've been through the Northridge earthquake, so we know what that does to a whole community, a whole region of the world. This is the next logical extension to that, if you ask me. So if you're growing up on the East Coast or in the Midwest and you're used to hurricanes and tornadoes, you've got, where the shelters are, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you got to lie flat or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not a tornado guy. I know there are people out there that are like that, but they're prepared for that. They're mentally prepared for it.
Yeah.
Right.
What we're taking people and we're trying to educate them in, the world is not getting safer, and the demographic situation has identified that there will not be as many protectors in the world as we used to have.
Yep.
So how are you leveraging your own responsibility, I know, 4-letter word, and experience and trying to protect yourself and your family? Because, by the way, that has always been your responsibility.
Yeah.
Yep.
You never should have let, the government's going to protect me from all the bad things that we have. Like, if that's go place one for you, you've already failed.
Yeah.
So how can we take people who are prepared for natural disasters and emergencies? Everybody's got a ouchie and a boo-boo kit in their house,
Yep.
I'm sure.
Yep.
Right? How do we get that to the mentality of now you may be in or around gunfire, in or around a traumatic experience?
Yeah.
How do you quantify that? How are you prepared for that? And by the way, what you see on TV, the John Wicks of the world, it's good. I like all the John Wicks too. It's really cool to watch him shoot like that. But that is Hollywood.
Yeah.
Reality is way different.
Yep.
And I appreciate all those other CCW instructors that are out there teaching how the right shooting stances and how to hold the gun and those kinds of things and where to draw from and all that. That's awesome. But no one is out there putting people in scenarios in a safe environment where they're not getting shot with pellets or munitions or something.
Yeah.
And we're in a situation where we can dial you up to 10 and then dial you back down to normal, whatever your normal is, and say, okay, let's talk about it.
Yep.
This is a safe space. I'm not, it sounds cheesy, but I'm not really kidding. We want them to feel like, okay, I can go into this lab, and that's why Dave calls it that. I can go into the lab. I can make a mistake. I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm not going to embarrass myself. The instructors are reasonable, and they're going to help me work through this.
Yeah.
Right. And help me justify my actions, not only to myself, but potentially in a legal setting.
Yeah. What I'm saying, I like what you said about the government, because we use that as an excuse. We're just going to be angry. We're just going to get angry. We're just going to talk about it. And then we think, in the back of our minds, we think, oh, it's going to get better, because if I get angry and I start screaming and I make a bunch of noise, they're eventually going to catch on. I don't think they are. Nope. We're way too far behind. And even if they do catch on, you still need law enforcement officers, and that's as long as you, like Scott said, you got to take on your own responsibility. That's where it's at for sure. Yeah. But I love your product. And speaking about protectors and our military, let's bring them in for a minute, because you guys are both military. I love Mike Trotter's product, 4 branches. Okay, Scott. Let's open this up, because we want to remember. We want to usually close thing. Let's close the thing up.
Let's do that.
Can you have that book up there?
There you go.
And can you do the introduction?
Yeah, let's talk
how
about
this works.
Let's talk about 4 branches. 4 branches. 4 members, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, came together. They enjoyed bourbon. They wanted to create a brand that was impactful and had a great message, as well as a great product. So they created 4 branches. The air, land, and sea is in their branding. They've got a great message from their founders. This edition is the Founders Blend. It's their first bottle that they ever designed. It's won awards. It's amazing. I won't gush too much about just this product itself. But the message that's in the bottle is one that was specifically written for veterans, and that's sip to remember. Because as veterans, one of the things that we take solace in is spending time with our friends and our brothers and sisters in arms, and at times those that have gone before us. And so we like to remember them. We need to remember them. We need to say their names so they are never forgotten. This brand and the 4 branches was created as a pathway to do that. So it's not about drinking so that you can forget all the bad things that you have seen or experienced in the military. It's about sipping to remember. And I don't think that there is a brand out there that the message is more important than the product than with 4 branches.
Yeah, and I want to say this. When I met Mike Trotter, okay, not only is he an incredible speaker, the guy's the real deal.
Yeah.
And the people he hangs around, there's no question, are the real deal. They're involved in this brand. And I got to be honest with you, I liked him so much. I prayed and said, please make this taste good, okay? Because I like this guy, and I'm going to buy it no matter what, right? And then when I got to taste it, I go, you know what? There you go. So it's not just, the message is beautiful. This isn't a corporate thing. The message is beautiful all the way around. And the reason why it's good is because it was gifted, because it was developed by the people who care.
That's right.
Yep.
And that's God's law, in my opinion, right? And this is what we got here. So I was lucky enough to grab the Founders Blend, grab a taste of that, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I do this at every podcast. You guys are my heroes on this. We know that. And here's now he's done some extra stuff.
He has. So, I wish I would have brought the bottles to show you guys. I brought you guys samples. It's not my urine. Just kidding. You have to have kind of a weird sense of humor.
Of course.
Yeah. So I have my own little sample kit, but because I'm traveling, I wanted to bring you guys some of the newer stuff.
Sure.
That Mike Trott and the folks at 4 Branches have made. Because it seems like every bottle they are reiterating, they're making their blend better, they're making their product better and better. So I have their latest one, which is a limited time only release. It's called the Hunter's Reserve. And when we talk about hunters, we're not talking about the people that take game to eat. We're talking about the meat eaters that go out there and hunt down the real bad guys. And so that's the bottle was made for them.
I love it.
So I'd love for you to try that. Blue Corn is a great bourbon from Arizona. I really like it, so I thought I'd bring you that. This is Liberty. Four Branches Liberty Reserve is another LTO, but every bottle is numbered. And I think they only did 250 of them, or maybe it's 2,500 of them. I hope, Mike, please don't hurt me when I see you next. I'll buy you dinner. But it's really a great looking bottle, and it is numbered one of blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Right? So I brought some of that for you to taste. And then I have, this is Four Branches Founders Reserve, which is their latest, what I say is a flagship blend. And this is probably my favorite one out of all of them. But it is really good. It too, just like Founders Blend, has won awards. So it's going to be on the shelves soon in retail stores. If you want to know where to buy, where do I get this stuff? It can be shipped to I believe all 50 states. Don't quote me. Take a look at their website, fourbranchesbourbon.com. The cool thing is that it's sold on military bases at AFES, or whatever the Navy calls theirs, NEX or whatever. But anyways, you can get them at military bases as well as you can get them in Arizona. It's an Arizona company, and we sell them in a bunch of stores in Arizona. But you can order it online. You can order all of them online. And by the way, if you're worried about, they're going to send this beautiful bottle and it might, break, they package it so well that you don't have to worry about it. I just got Hunter's Reserve, and it came in like 2 boxes inside, wrapped up, foam, everything. It was brilliant. Bottles survived great, and they taste wonderful. So I'm hoping that you can enjoy some of this with us.
I sure appreciate you bringing those. I'm definitely going to do that.
I want to go, Mike. Cut, print, and distribute. You have your commercial right here.
I should have worn my Four Branches T-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's a great message.
Sure.
It just happens to be a really good product too. For those of us who enjoy bourbon, this I can't speak to the blends and the mixes. That's Mike, and he's the expert at that. But this is something. What I say is when I have law enforcement veterans, military veterans come to my house, we're going to share Four Branches.
Yep.
And that because it's not to be drank alone. And that's how I consume it, right? I don't drink alone. I consume this with my brothers and sisters, and we're going to sip to remember, not drink to forget.
Well, that's terrific. So if you guys don't mind, I had you here last time. Can we do a little sip to remember?
Yeah.
Close this podcast out. Great podcast, guys.
Humble host.
Perfect.
We get a kiss, right?
You got to pour more in mine, man.
I don't want to use all, it's not my bourbon.
Are you trying to get me drunk? Like, what's going on, brother? Like,
all right. Well, first of all, thank you again, guys, for coming to the podcast. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
To you,
Mike.
To Mike and the Four Branches guys.
Cheers.
Don't get better than that. Man, it's been a while since I opened that up. That's pretty good. I've been on traveling.
I like to hold it in my mouth. It's so delicious. But yeah, pick one up at the retailer near you.
That's right. Thank you for joining us, guys. Appreciate it.
Comment, like, share, and subscribe.